Welcome to Run Ultra with me, Robin Leafley. I am by myself today, Lone Ranger, just winging it, really. We're talking to Holly Stables today. I'm really excited to talk about the speed project, Los Angeles to Las Vegas, and see how all of that went, and just talk about her training, her coaching, just generally all of her running life. We won't go all the way back because she's had to repeat her running story a bajillion times on podcasts over the last month or so, and indeed on her own podcast with Ali Bailey many times. So we won't bother doing that. Last night I led an away run for my local club, Coit Valley Striders. I said, don't worry guys, I've got a great route around the Macclesfield Forest area, which is sort of Cheshire area of England, right in the middle. And it went really well, except for we lost the path quite early on, and we ended up having to do a fair bit of road for what was supposed to be a lovely trail run. Completely my fault, but there you go. We live and learn. I don't think anyone holds a grudge, so hopefully not. I didn't know that they had, so in Macclesfield Forest, there's a whole bunch of lovely trails, and I didn't realize you could have mountain bike only trails. So when I'd mapped it on my phone, I was really excited about the route, and then we got there, it said mountain bikes only, and the kid behind and the defensive part of me thought, we should just go this way because it's what I planned and it'll be fine. But someone pointed out, have you ever had a mountain bike fall on your head? And well, obviously no. So opting for the safer route, we took a longer way round, and it was still a lovely run anyway. So I think it was a success. It was a beautiful evening. We had a lovely sunset on Shuttlingslow, which is a beautiful hill. If you're ever gonna come visit Cheshire / Derbyshire area, that is a great one to do. There's a really great local race which is a straight up, straight down. I think it's less than 2 miles. And I think it's got at least 300 meters of incline within that 2 miles. So if you fancy testing your aerobic engine, there's no better place than going up and down Shuttlingslow. And the start, they line you all up next to a tree. There's no big sort of gate or funnel or anything. It's proper old school. And to finish, you've got to run all the way back and touch the wall, and that signifies that you finished. So I think there must have been some great finishes there in the past. I wish I could have seen. I hope that they've been super close and people have just been touching the wall at the same time. Maybe some lies thrown about as to whether they finished first or not. You never know what people are like, do you? Although generally, I should say, fell runners aren't really like that. I won't say the same for road runners. It seems a little bit more competitive, sort of solo journey. Maybe that might be a little bit too harsh. Maybe I'm being cruel there. I do run roads myself as well, obviously. So, but anyway, yes, very excited for Holly to join. So she should be joining in the next minute or so. What an incredible journey that must have been through a really hot part of North America. Going that far, 467 kilometers, it says on her Strava. Her only activity ever recorded on Strava. Having only ever been 107 kilometers myself, that's 360 kilometers shy. Just doesn't even compute. And here she is. I will admit her to the room.
Hello.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, good. How are you? We are recording from the offset.
Oh, cool. I like that. Nice vibe. Don't normally have that. I think this is always the best bit, the bit before you actually start recording, although we have recorded, because it's when all the tasty bits come out and then they get deleted.
Exactly. I know. I've noticed that on the Run Censored podcast, they sort of let it taper off at the end, and I'm like, oh, this is the good bit. And they sort of leave it in a bit, don't they?
Yeah, well, when I went up to do that with them, when was it, a couple of weeks ago, we were just talking a lot of shit talk. And then they were like, yeah, we probably won't leave this in. And I was like, oh my God, have you been recording this? I was like, you can't leave half of that in. It's awful.
Oh, they don't
slagging off all my friends and everything, No, not that bad.
Did you manage to get them to take it out?
Yeah, they did. I did message her a few times, like, oh, can you? Or they did leave a few marathon talk bits in, but it's fine. I mean, that's water under the bridge. But yeah, I was.
Yeah.
That was a bit like, oh no.
Oh, it's been a long enough time now, surely.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's a whole different thing now. Marathon talk. It's not marathon talk, is it? I don't even know what it is. Abbott's majors, whatever it is.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. They've
but
been
yeah, no,
taken
thank you
over.
for letting me get into this call a bit later. I hadn't realised quite how long my training session was this morning, and I would have had to have got up at like 4 a.m.
Oh my goodness, what were you
No,
doing?
no, it wasn't that bad, but it would have been early.
What was the session?
It was actually a 90 minutes. That was without warm up. 90 minutes. God, I can't speak. 90 minutes continuous run, sort of changing pace every 5 minutes. So it wasn't actually that bad in terms of pace, but it's just like, like long and drawn out. And because it's changed, the average pace overall wasn't ludicrous, but because the paces were very up and down, it just works sort of like went through sort of zone 1 to top end of zone 3. So it wasn't crazy hard, but it was just, I find those runs sort of long and slightly debilitating.
Yeah, absolutely. With no warm up
Depleting,
as
sorry,
well.
not
Yeah.
debilitating, depleting.
Was that the first sort? Is that the first sort of big session you've done since? I know it's been a little while.
No, no, I've done quite a few. I did one earlier this week, which absolutely annihilated me actually. But it was partly my fault because I'd done a heavy leg session the day before, which I would never normally do, but it was because of timing. And
Right.
I did too much volume in the leg session, which again is something I do not preach, or Pete doesn't preach. So he told me off. And as a result, I had quite bad DOMs, which I never have. You shouldn't really have DOMs, not at
Yeah.
this stage. And then I did a session on Tuesday, which was 15 by 1 minutes hard with a minute recovery, and then straight into half an hour, sort of like not 10-mile pace, but more like half marathon pace, maybe a little bit slower. But that was quite hard. I felt like actually quite sore afterwards.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It sounds pretty hard.
Yeah. And that was self-inflicted. That was my session. So, because I'd decided that's what I thought I should do. But whilst I was in the depths of it, I was like, oh, hang on a minute. I think I did the minute efforts quite hard. And as a result, I paid for it in that last bit of tempo. I like to do a lot of my sessions mixed paced. I'm not a person that just does the same pace stuff.
Mm.
So, and that's the way I coach as well. So, but it's good. It mixes stuff up. But I was quite sore after that. So the last couple of days have been a bit, yeah, jogs until today.
Yeah, that sounds really similar to. I don't know whether you've ever listened to Inside Running, the Australian guys.
No, I
Um,
haven't actually.
it's really good. It's been on for a long time. I think I started listening to that
Oh, I'll
similar
have to
sort of
start
time
listening to
to.
them. I listen to
Yeah,
loads of podcasts. That's one I don't listen to.
they're really nice. They're like quite serious road runners, sort of
Okay.
always trying to break 220. It seems that that's the theme
Oh,
of the show.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
but
yeah,
they
actually, what other podcast do I've just started to listen to Fast Talk podcast actually. That's mainly biking and triathlon, but it's very relevant to running, and that's very sciencey. I really like that. And obviously on coaching with Magnus and Marcus, that's another favorite.
yeah. I know. I watch. You see, I have no interest in triathlon, but watch
No.
Global Triathlon Network YouTube
Yeah,
videos quite often when they have a running based one because it's so good.
yeah.
And Mark Threlford just seems like a really lovely guy.
He is. He lives just down the road from me. Yeah, he's a good
Isn't
guy.
he? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, their stuff's really good actually. But yeah, I love all these. I love all the sciencey podcasts, and of course, a whole other podcast about a podcast. But the real science of, I'm just looking at my list. Real science of science, real science of sport podcast is another favorite.
yeah.
All of those sort of ones.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
favorite it on Spotify now.
yeah. There's. I mean, I listen. Obviously, my favorite one is Swap podcast.
Mm.
Um,
Oh
and then
yeah.
yeah, on coaching. Real Science of Sport podcast. Oh, The Morning Shakeout with Mario Froley.
Okay. I'm missing
All really
loads
good
here.
stuff. Yeah, you are. There's some amazing ones. And then if you want a non-running one, oh, and then Single Track podcast. It's amazing.
Oh yeah. I've got that one.
Free Trail with Dylan
Yeah.
Bowman. With the list goes on. Sweat
Yeah.
Elite when Matt Fox gets let out of Japan or wherever he is. He's locked up at the moment.
Yeah.
And then the non-running one, but it's quite interesting. I really love Freakonomics Radio. That's a good one.
Okay. Oh, nice. Yeah, I only mentioned the Inside Running one because they mention
Write that down.
when they do a session, if you commit to, let's say it's, I don't know, 10 times 3 minutes or something like that. If you commit to the first 3 minutes at a specific pace and it's already too quick, then as far as they're concerned, you have to do the rest of the session at that pace, and you've made your bed and you have to push through it.
That is very old school. And it's a little bit like we did a Marathon Talk, which was the Royal Flush, which is the same sort of thing. If you set off a certain pace, you had to get fast. Each one had to get, even if it was a second, so you couldn't go on slow. So the idea is to not go off too fast. But that is how the old school, when I used to train at the club, we'd go out for our easy or steady run, and people would get faster and faster and faster and faster, and it became a bit of a race. But yeah, don't do that at home, kids.
Definitely not. So how long did you wait until doing your first session after? Did you were you sort of gauging your body? You must know yourself pretty well, but you've never run that far before, so
no. Yeah, it's a really good question, because obviously I had no idea. I honestly thought before I did the race, whatever you want to call it, I honestly thought, well, first of all, I was a bit flippant, as you've probably heard in other podcasts. I was a bit like, yeah, well, the running bit's fine, I can do that. But honestly, when I was in the middle of it, I was like, good God, what is 300 miles? Am I insane? But when I was, and then obviously the last bit going into Las Vegas, my legs felt like they were literally, I hate people using the word literally, but I did actually literally feel like that they were breaking while I was running. It felt like my tibias were fracturing into tiny little splinters every time I hit the ground. And I was thinking whilst I was doing that, like, yeah, I've fractured my legs now, but there's nothing I can do. I've just got to get to Las Vegas, and then I'll just take a month off or 6 weeks, whatever, and it'd be okay. Turns out I hadn't fractured them, and they actually felt not too bad at all. I was making a big old fuss, but genuinely, I thought, ooh, people who do these sort of things, you hear people who've done like 200 races, like Cocodona, that's just happened, amazing. That people, it takes people, oh, you know, it will take you almost a year to get over that. And I was thinking, yeah, I mean, maybe this, once I've done this race, maybe I'll have just broken myself forever, and that's it. It's my final hurrah sort of thing. But actually, I think again, oh God, I always use this word as a coach. I always go, it depends. People ask me, well, it depends, but it does depend. And I think everyone is individual, because I have been running for just far too many years. I started running in 1995. Okay, so there'll be people in this podcast who weren't born then, but that's a long time. What's that? That's 30 years, good God. And I've built up gradually, and I built up to be doing, and I've been pretty consistent, apart from my injury days, which were at the beginning, which were very frequent. But to be honest, I have been pretty consistent with my training. And as a result, I've just built up years and years and years of endurance, and you know, just my body's used to doing this sort of stuff. I think if you were potentially quite new to it, and there's a lot of people that do these things, we may talk about this later, who do ultras and crazy adventures, and they've literally started running in lockdown. Now, I've got different ideas on that, and whether that's a good idea or not, or whether that's inspirational or not, I'm not so sure. I think to do massive things like that, I do think it's important to have built up to that. So I think because I've done that, I was able to get away with it potentially, and because I do lots of strength work, and I wasn't crazy in my training before. I think that because of it, I came out of it pretty well unscathed. But I did want to respect the recovery. So yeah, like I said, I like you said, I just did it. I just looked at how I felt, how much sleep I was getting, and for the first couple of weeks, I had absolutely no intention of breaking into a run or doing anything. I just listened to my body, and my body was just telling me to just go for a walk with the dog in the morning, and then basically like lie around the rest of the day watching television or reading my book or whatever. And that's what I did. Well, no, the eating thing was a real disappointment, if I'm honest. I was really gutted, because historically, when I've done ultras, especially like 100-milers, I know already with the 100-miler, the first few days, because everyone always thinks, oh, amazing, when I finish, I'm going to have this amazing meal, I'm going to have a burger, I'm going to have a pint, I'm going to do all that. And you think about all that, and always, I just can't do that. My stomach feels really bad. I quite often have a very sore roof of my mouth. I get that quite a lot. So swallowing is quite uncomfortable. And actually, I don't really want to eat very much at all. So I just do what I can in those first few days. But normally after that, I'm like, yeah, I can absolutely shovel it away, and I eat like a horse for like the next 1 to 2 weeks. With this, I just lost my appetite completely, and it
Right.
didn't come back for a couple of weeks. And as a result, that was quite, it was, first of all, it was really annoying because obviously I was really looking, I'd been down to Cornwall and I was like, yeah, I'm going to eat ice cream, but I'm going to have cream teas, going to have pasties. And I did eat stuff, but it wasn't like, oh, this is a joy. I was like, I'll eat it because I know I need to eat it, because I was actually losing weight after more rapidly than in the race. I
Wow.
lost about 5 kilos. I put it all back on again. But after the race, because I just wasn't getting enough calories. I hadn't really realized that after these sort of races, I spoke to Abraham, who came in behind me, and he's quite experienced. He's done a lot. He done Moab 240, Cocodona, all of that. And he said, yeah, he says, I have to eat 5,000 calories a day for 2 weeks after these races just to maintain.
Wow.
And I was like, oh shit, why didn't someone tell me that? Because I wasn't doing that. But then equally, I would have struggled to have done that anyway because I just had no appetite. And that was a real disappointment. I did obviously get my appetite back, but it was sort of like the moment had gone, if you know what I mean. That post big event where I just wanted to go out and trough the whole time. So that
Yeah.
was a weird thing. And then also my sleep was appalling. I mean, I had horrendous jet lag. So a mix of jet lag, not having any sleep in the race and not being able to sleep afterwards very much. I think the first night I slept really well when I finished the race, but after that my sleep was very bad. I was probably getting like 4 hours sleep. Bearing in mind during the race, I got 9 hours sleep in total over the race, over the 3 and a bit days. So, which was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
But so I was just massively behind on sleep. So I was massively behind on sleep, massively behind on calories. So really, I'm amazed that I didn't get some horrendous, horrific injury or sickness. I didn't get sick. I didn't get anything. But yeah, so I did nothing for the first few weeks. Then I went out and I broke into a jog on a dog walk, and I ended up doing, now this sounds a lot, but I was walk running for like 7 miles, but I was in Cornwall and I loved it. And then after that, I backed it right back, and I was sort of doing 4 or 5 mile runs and seeing how I felt. Back in the gym lifting, because that's really important, because I'd lost a lot of muscle.
Right. Does that happen
And
over a really long race?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I could see it, like even in the photos, like my quads have sort of gone inwards. Yeah, it's bad. So that was something I really wanted to get back, and I really wanted to restore that weight. I definitely don't want to be going down a route of losing weight again. And then I think I did my first session maybe, how many weeks are we after it now? Is it 6 weeks or is it a bit more? Maybe it's more.
Uh,
7 weeks. When did I finish? On that Thursday? I don't know. I think I did my first sort of small
24th,
session. And
24th of March it was. So yeah,
where are we
so yeah,
now?
6 weeks or so.
Yeah, okay. So I probably did my first proper session, yeah, a couple of weeks ago. So I probably waited about 4 weeks, but I only did something like, I don't know, 4 by 3 minutes or something.
Nice.
So steady, and just to see how my legs reacted, and everything I did, I just sort of did to how I felt really, and not worrying about pace. Um, but yeah, so that's it. It's about listening to your body and then backing off if you need to. And then just increasing the volume slowly. So for instance, like this week, I'll probably have done about 75 miles or something. So I'm back to reasonable
Is
mileage. Yeah.
that quite a standard weekly amount for you? Is that
Yeah, I
like where
think
you like to sit?
yeah, I think it is for me now, really. I mean, before TSB, I think I was up to about 90 miles, with the exception of races. Those weeks were higher, but yeah, about 90 miles. That's more than enough for me now. Like I used to historically when I was training for marathons, like when I was decent, I was averaging 100 miles a week pretty much all year round.
Kind of.
So
Say
so
when you were decent after you just came second in this
well,
huge
I mean,
massive race.
yeah, but I mean decent in terms of road running. I'm not, that's,
I
those
understand.
days
Yeah.
are gone. Yeah. Although I did get a PB obviously a couple of weeks ago, which I've said I'd never get, but I've got a 300 mile PB, so
Yeah,
woohoo!
exactly. Like woo. Yeah, there's loads of PBs left to get in sort of the longer distances, surely.
Yeah, true. Although I don't think I've ever raced a mile. That would be horrendous.
It would. I actually signed up to do a mile like 18 months ago, but I got sick the night before it. I was really gutted because I thought I could
Oh,
probably
lucky
break.
you.
Yeah, I, I thought I might be able to break 5 minutes, but who knows now? Never mind.
Oh dear.
But yeah, it must be terrible to just have to go out that hard and hold it. Bet those 400-meter laps really drag.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's I couldn't imagine running that fast. I actually did race 5,000s on the track and I loved that. But I did a 10,000 on the track. That's probably one of my only DNFs. And it was the most awful experience of my life. Not my life, but in my running. Yeah, in my running and racing, because that was one of the only ones I DNF'd because it was just so horrible and I had no idea what I was doing pacing wise. 10,000 on the track is really horrible, mentally and physically.
Did
So
everybody go up quite hard, or
yeah, I
did
mean,
you
I
just
just went
sort of
off at
think,
like 5,000-meter pace and thought I'd be
I,
able to hold on to that. And of course, I just basically exploded into a ball of flames and then just walked off, feeling really sorry for myself and an absolute fool.
oh man, how old were you when you did that? Do you remember?
Oh wow. I mean, not that young because I was probably, I don't know, 29, 30 or something. Can't remember. I could probably have a look. It was at Alexander Stadium and it was a reasonably big meet as well and there were some good girls there and I was just, yeah, it was awful. Awful.
Maybe too excited for that one.
Yeah, it was just too much for me. It's not my sort of thing. I'll be honest, 10,000s are my biggest hatred anyway. I've said I'll never ever do a 10K again on road ever.
I absolutely agree. I hate
I hate
10Ks.
them. They're too hard. Like 5K, you just basically go balls to the road as just until you just can hang on. But 10K is basically that and double it, double
Yeah,
that. So I'm just like, no, I'm not interested. I'll do a half marathon because I can run a bit slower, but I'm 10K, no,
100%.
I'm out.
I love how the 300 miler is your only Strava activity. Is it going to remain that way?
Well, it depends what I do next, doesn't it?
I suppose,
Um,
yeah, it'd be good if you just had these massive spikes.
yeah. Yeah, I'd planned that, I'll be honest. I had planned that because I think a lot of people know my sort of not hatred for Strava, but I'm not a big fan. I understand it, and most of the athletes I coach are on Strava, and that's good for them. But it's just another added layer of anxiety, I think, it would be for me and for many people, and just another added layer of um, more feedback, and I just don't see the point of it.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, I've gone in and out of it. Like people, I jump on and off it these days.
So you have got a Strava account then?
Yeah, I do. And all my runs go there automatically, but my sort of usage of Strava goes in and out, whether I actually look at it or whether I
Yeah.
start comparing myself or not, which is very sort of your other podcast focused, isn't it? But I think it helped me in the beginning. It certainly helped me get into my running journey, seeing other people on leaderboards and just sort of discovering that more people ran just than me, even in my local area. So it helped me find my first running club by
Oh,
sort of
did it?
stalking other people on leaderboards and seeing how the running world worked.
Yeah, I suppose that I guess that's probably you're quite different then. I don't think many people use it for that. I think most people do it to just show off,
Yeah,
um, and also be competitive with themselves maybe. But I mean, me and Ali talk about it on our podcast about comparison and stuff, and it's just that's when Strava can be dark. But so I think the other thing that I have found Strava has been useful for me when I've gone on it, or because Pete's been on it for a while, so I can use his account to look up stuff. I don't want to look at what other people are doing. I really don't care. But what it has been useful is if I've wanted to find um, GPX routes for something, and I can check if someone else has done it, and then I can get it from there, or I get someone else to get it for me off Strava. But that's it. That's the only thing I'm bothered in. In fact, I didn't. This is how unstravery I am. When I when it automatically loaded my race, the TSP on it, I thought it was really good that it automatically put it as morning run. I didn't realize that every run that Strava does it as morning run, doesn't it? I didn't know that. So I was like, oh, cool, look, it's morning run. It makes me look really funny. I'm like, actually, no, Holly, everyone does a morning run. So yeah.
it would have been cool if you left it as just morning run.
Well, I was going to because I did think it was quite funny, but the thing is, it was several mornings, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Some Like It Hot is a pretty good title, to be fair.
Yeah. I thought
Yeah.
that might be quite a good title for my documentary when it comes out, but
Oh,
maybe not. I don't know. I've still got to think of an idea for that.
you know when that'll how long we have to wait for that?
It's supposed to be out this month,
Is it? Oh,
but I know, but Peter, who is putting it together, I don't want to pester him because obviously he's got loads of other jobs and this isn't his priority as such. So I'm a bit like, oh, I wonder when it's going to be out. So I don't know. I'm going to leave it to, and also I trust him because he's the most amazing videographer and editor, and so it will be amazing. But yeah, I am excited to see it. I am excited, but almost slightly apprehensive because it will be. I know I'm going to cringe because I did say to him, I want you to just put anything you want in. I don't care. I want it to be as hideous as it was.
mm,
Like show everything. So I know that he's videoed a lot of stuff. Well, I think he's got like 11 hours of footage. So he's got to do a lot of editing.
yeah,
But I know that he did catch quite a lot of stuff when I was in a proper state. So I hope that's included in it. I'm sure it will. I trust him and he
yeah,
knows what I like. I'm not into the YouTube films or influencer stuff that's all
yeah,
basically fake as far as I'm concerned. It's all,
yeah.
manipulated to make things look really nice and easy and, and shiny when it's not really like that.
No, no. Those, yeah, I completely agree. Make it as grim and as like
Oh, I want it to be hideous,
raw
put
as
people off.
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, like really show it for what it was. Those are the best ones. Those
Well,
to
yeah,
watch.
I think that's the thing. It's because the other thing that I've noticed with looking at the other people that were in the race, in the relay and the solo, and a lot of them are putting up like reels and photos and things like that. And and a lot of them we all had sort of the similar RVs because I think we'd booked them from the same company, so you could see what the RV were like. So it was just like ours. Everyone's RVs and everything and themselves, they're all like really clean and tidy and organized. Our RV looked like it had been ransacked the first day and then basically got worse. Basically like if someone had come in and burgled it. There was just stuff everywhere. This is not getting at the boys because it was boys looking after me, so what do you expect? But
Yeah,
there was just like carnage everywhere. There was clothes everywhere. There was food everywhere. We had a shower in there. I never used the shower. I didn't wash once. That's how disgusting I was. And I just didn't have the energy or thought process to actually wash. But the boys, I think, had a wash once and they managed the shower. They because they hadn't emptied the grey water, it started backing up. So in the shower we had like grey water swilling around. So every time we went around a corner, they had to make sure that, and there was like bottles floating in it. It was just so gross, and the toilet was like getting full up. It was just so bad.
I'm very excited for this documentary now.
Oh my God, it's so gross. Yeah. And we
I
had
love
like
when,
loads of sausages. This was a running joke that
yes,
I decided before that I was going to go out and buy food and put it in the fridge and the freezer and all this stuff that I possibly might want to eat, which of course went out the window because I didn't want to eat anything. So it was a running joke that every time I'd finish, like Gary would go, "Do you want a sausage?" And the fridge was full of like raw sausages that had been there for like a week. It was just like, can someone just get rid of them, please?
oh man. I
Yeah.
loved when Gary mentioned how Pete had that long shower and sort of wash right near the end when I think you only had sort of, was
I
it
had
20
about a
miles to the
marathon
house?
to go. There
Yeah,
is a bit of a sticking thing about that because actually that's not exactly what happened from what I've heard.
right,
So apparently what happened is that Pete did have a shower, but the boys were just sitting around on their phones, like messing about, and Gary was on the phone. And
right,
Pete was like, "Well, we can go now," and they didn't listen, and they were on their phones or something. So I think that they've tried to make it out, blame it on Pete, when actually it was all of
right.
their fault. So I've heard that since. So I think it's a little bit of a blame culture with that. But that was the only bit where I did lose my rag a bit. But to be honest, I was I was, I'd been running for what, 260 miles or more, no, more than that,
Or
270 miles. And at that point, I was hysterical about everything. And I thought because I ran on and I left my phone with him to charge, so I got no charge on my phone, and I almost ran out of water. And I was running up this road, this road was really busy with like lorries going past me. And I kept looking behind me and they weren't there.
mm,
And all I kept thinking is, I can't even call them. What am I going to do? And then when they finally arrived, and they'd only been like 20 minutes, I just went a bit mad. And that's caught on camera, I think.
Oh, great. Did you? I can't think if there's been any talk about wildlife on any of the podcasts. Was there any like wild cats or anything like that around that area, or is it pretty?
There are mountain lions in that area, which actually Peter told me because Peter, the videographer, who's a friend of mine, he's through like the PCT, the PNT, loads of the big hikes. And he was telling me about encounters that he'd had, like lots of bear encounters. And
Yeah,
he was saying about the mountain lions. And he was like, yeah, yeah, there are mountain lions out here. He said, yeah, the interesting thing about mountain lions is they actually stalk you though. So you don't really know they're there. They just follow you. I was like, oh, brilliant. Okay.
great.
And they're around here. Yeah. So there are mountain lions, but obviously I think it's quite rare, but it would have just my luck that I'd have been eaten by one. I didn't see anything like that, but there were a lot of rattlesnakes. I didn't see any. There probably were a lot by me, but I just didn't see them. But a lot of the other guys, there's a lot of photos on the WhatsApp group of people who'd seen rattlesnakes. The other big thing was the loose dogs. That's
Yeah,
quite well known every year. And there are a lot of dogs because the parts that we run through when you get out of LA, you run through a lot of sort of just very weird places, I'll be honest.
yeah.
It's like, have you watched Breaking Bad?
Delicious.
And yet, oh my God, there's other things about that I need to tell you.
Yeah,
It reminded me of Breaking Bad or like Nomadland, where you would just be in the desert and it's like an RV has been dropped from space and it's
mm,
just there in the middle of the desert with some Joshua trees around it. There's no water, there's nothing. I don't know how they've got there, but they're there and they've got a satellite dish and maybe an
right.
air conditioning unit. But they all seem to have dogs. A lot of them were either tied up or they're in a fenced area, but some of them were loose, and they are there, I think, mainly as guard dogs. And I heard about this after one girl did get bitten and had to go to hospital, but we were given pepper spray. But I think I'll be honest, so I got chased 3 times. Well, I say chase, they sort of come at you.
Yeah,
But I'm used to dogs or being brought up on a farm, and it's a bit like you just ignore them.
yeah,
And I think that some people didn't get a little bit like if you start going, yeah, getting all funny with them, they can get reactive. So I didn't have that many issues, but we did get dogs sort of coming out, barking, chasing at our feet and stuff. But I just sort of ignored them. I'll be honest, I was too tired to give a shit anyway. Um, and then of course we had the donkey experience.
mm.
I don't know if you heard about that with Gary.
Oh, I can't remember it now.
It was
Uh,
the power line section, which was the
yeah.
long bit where we had no.
Oh, I
That was the
remember
bit I
now.
was terrified. But yeah.
Yeah,
And then I'd been following these little hoof marks, and I was like, "This is weird. Why are there horses out here?"
yeah,
Didn't hear about that. And then I remember someone saying there are wild donkeys out on this bit, which is quite cute. And then
yeah.
I looked up when we got to the top of the power lines, the highest bit of the course, and I'd seen these little footprints. I look over to the side, and there's these donkeys staring at us, just on literally probably 500 meters away. And I said to Gary, I was like, "Oh my God, look, there's donkeys." And he stood there for ages, like looking around. I was like, "What is he looking at?" He's like, "I can't see them." I said, "They're literally there, Gary, right in front of us." He's like, "I can't see monkeys here at all." I was like, "There's not monkeys, they're donkeys." So we saw donkeys. That was it,
Yeah.
I think.
That goes
Yeah.
straight into sort of like the hallucinations and stuff, isn't it? Like, I can't see monkeys, Holly. Oh
Yeah.
dear, you must be struggling.
I was like, yeah, no, you're the idiot because you think there's monkeys there. But yeah, no, I mean, that's the other question I've had actually is about hallucinations. Didn't have any.
That's disappointing, really, isn't it?
I
I'd be
know.
disappointed.
I think it's because I did break it up with little sleep naps. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, sometimes I'd have to look twice and think that I saw someone like ran past me or something like, but I get that just running around here. Maybe it's just my
Yeah,
eyesight. But when I've done things like the 100, especially UTMB, I had really bad hallucinations. Um, but on this, no, not so much. I mean, maybe it's also because you're running in the desert a lot of the time, so there's actually nothing to. Because the thing is, when you're running in the mountains, I found a lot of rocks would turn into things, or
yeah, that's
you
true.
know. But no, I didn't have hallucinations on TSB.
Yeah, I suppose the barren landscape doesn't really give you many options, does it, to for your mind
No, no.
to turn
I
to?
mean, you've got the Joshua trees, which I'd never seen before. They're pretty cool, and cactus.
Yeah.
So you could see a lot of, I don't know what you could see there, but yeah, no, I didn't have anything like that.
Yeah. I when I looked at your activity on Strava, um, my wife Jen said, "Oh, are you going to mansplain this bit?" I was like, "Oh, Ali Bailey would love that." Um, I drew a line from Santa Monica just on my mapping thing to from the start to the finish, just to see, because it looked like you'd gone a little bit of a long way round out of Los Angeles. I was like,
Yes.
yeah, there's a big sort of national forest there. Like, how bad can it be? There must be a quicker way through there. I
Yes.
noticed there's a
Yes.
3,000-meter
That's right. You
mountain
are correct.
in the way.
So there is that route. So people do take that route. That's the thing. There's so many different routes, and people take, yeah, there's a route. There is a slightly shorter route,
Right.
I think by probably about 20k, but it's more of the power line. So you're on the, you're on that sand, and that
Yeah.
sand is hard going. It's like running on a beach, which I absolutely hate. And then also for me, it was all about, because I didn't have a four-wheel drive following me, some of those, so the power line sections where it was a bit shorter, you wouldn't have had any support for quite a long time, unless you had a four-wheel drive. And a lot of people have four-wheel drive, so you could do that way. So for me, the course was dictated because of the vehicle that I had and the support I had. And also, not knowing it was going to be a heat wave, if I'd have had to run those sections, it was bad enough the way I did it, but with those sections where I wouldn't have got any support, I probably would have just dehydrated so badly. I don't know what would have happened.
Yeah. Might not have finished the race. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. I could have just ended up, I don't know, like sand.
Yeah. I know those are the worst. That I hate running through sand as well. That's when you look at the hardest park runs in the UK, it's always one with sand dunes right at the top. That's
Why
the
would
hardest.
anyone want to do a park run with sand dunes? I mean, that's weird.
You don't want to just kind of see how hard it is.
No, I just,
No,
no.
you pick a super fast road,
Really boring,
park,
flat, out
yeah,
and back or something. Yeah.
where no one can judge you with your time.
Although actually that is a good point, actually. If there's sand, you can use it as an excuse.
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think so? Salomon. Let's talk about Salomon and sports shoes. Um, how did it all come about? Did you chase? What happened?
Yeah, so originally ASICs were going to help me, and as you know, everyone knows the story about that.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah, do you know what? Don't bother.
yeah,
And also it wasn't going to fit their ethos. It's not remotely sound mind or sound body, so it was the very opposite of it. So
yeah.
that was fine. But I had already done some work with sports shoes. I don't know if you know anything about the speed, with the way the Speed Project works, certainly, is that they do not invite brands to sort of collaborate. So there's a very strict rule when you get invited to do, this is for the solos especially, but even for the relay, but it's slightly different, that you can create as much content as you like, but it has to be on your channel or your cruise channel or whatever, but it can't be on a brand's channel,
Right.
because then they're getting free advertising. And because let's be honest, the content that you can create for LA to LV or Atacama or any of the other races is amazing,
Yeah.
because it's just an amazing race, and some of the scenery is insane, and it doesn't really rain, so it's just amazing. So that's the sort of strict rule. So that does have implications if you want help from brands, because or the only other way they can is if they pay TSP a very large sum. But like
Right.
Niels is very adamant that he doesn't want to have brands involved, because it's not about making money, it's not about that, it's not about promotion, it is an unsanctioned race. It's very, I love, that's the whole ethos of it.
Yeah.
So for me it was, I knew the guys at Sports Shoes. I'd said to them, like, this is what I'm doing, is there any flexibility in helping me in any way? And the way that Sports Shoes work is you have to sort of collab with a brand, because they would be the brand that would support you. And
Right.
so through my contacts at Sports Shoe, they sort of took it to the brands, and Solomon straight away said, yeah, we'd love to, because they had done some stuff in Atacama. And amazingly, because Sports Shoes is a retailer, I'd managed to convince Niels and Katie, my contact at Sports Shoes, who's amazing.
Yeah.
She's a good runner herself as well. She'd managed to speak to Niels and sort of convince him that the Sports Shoes isn't a brand, it's actually a retailer. So can we maybe put something on our channel? And and the deal was, yeah, okay, if you're going to help Holly do this, then yeah, we can do that. So that was really helpful. So they helped me financially. As it happened, it wasn't enough money, but I that's why I had to crowdfund. But
Yeah.
it was a big help. And also the Solomon and Solomon gave me all the kit and the shoes, which was amazing. And I'll be honest, I was a bit, so I'd come straight from Asics, you know, I'd left Asics, I'd not tried any other shoes for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I liked Asics shoes. I wasn't so keen on the kit, I'll be honest, or the packs. I hated the packs.
Yeah.
So Solomon pack and kit was just a dream. It still is a dream. I absolutely love the stuff.
Yeah.
But the shoes, I have to say, I was a bit like, oh, hang on a minute, this is going to be a bit difficult.
Yeah.
But at sort of at the last minute, they brought out the Aero Glide 3, which is a beautiful shoe.
Yeah. I want to try
And
that one.
yeah, and so that was my shoe of choice, to be honest. And I wore their racing shoe, and actually, I'm a convert now, so I love them. So that actually worked out really well. So Solomon were brilliant, and yeah, their kit, and I mean, I had no issues with, I had no chafing, no rubbing. I had very tiny little blisters. That was all. And yeah, I didn't really have to change my stuff very much, and it was really good. It worked out really well. The packs were really good. Socks were really good. I didn't even need half the kit I used actually because it was so horrendously hot. You know, I just wore. In fact, I needed more like cotton t-shirts, if I'm honest, to keep, you know, like cool and covered up because I was burning. But yes, it was great. And I mean, my one of my pairs of shoes that I wore for most of it, the Aeroglide, they were completely bald on the bottom though when I finished from
Yeah.
the road.
Completely burnt off.
Yeah, I think it was because of the heat and the tarmac. Yeah, it was just, and also because I think, especially towards the end, I was sort of like, my feet were just like
Right.
scraping the floor. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like I was bouncy or anything, but yeah, certainly around the heel area, they'd gone completely bald.
Yeah. So your form was compromised to be
Yeah.
expected at that point in a race. Yeah. You just reduced to a more of a shuffle, I suppose.
I was shuffling. There was a lot of walking, obviously.
Yeah.
But yes, there was, yeah, it definitely towards the end because the last 50k was on road, like baking hot road.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I remember you saying, yeah, you had the carbon plated shoes ready for that bit, but actually
It was
it wasn't going to happen
pointless.
by that point. No.
I wore them for probably 20k and it just felt like I'd gotten such bad nerve damage on the bottom of my feet. Your feet basically feel numb. You know, when I don't know if you've had this where you know, when your feet are really cold and then you put them in hot water and they feel
Yeah,
like you can't feel them. That's what my feet felt like for that last sort of 50k. So I couldn't really, it was just every time I hit my feet hit the floor, they just really hurt. And then that horrible feeling of all of this like trauma going up my shins. Oh,
yeah,
and then that was the only time like I'd had no issues with my legs really or anything, my back or anything. And it was at the very end, which I always normally happens for most people in ultras, is your tib ant, you know, at the front of the ankle starts to get aggravated because you're doing this all the time. You're moving your dorsiflexing, plantar flexing your toes when you run.
yeah,
And that just, especially on the road, and then that just started to swell up on my left foot. A lot of people were getting that from day one, but I wasn't surprised that was happening in it. But I think I was amazed that it literally happened in the last maybe 20k. So that was quite sore when I finished and swollen. But apart from that, it was fine.
nice. Yeah, the Aeroglide threes, and then they've got the S Lab Ultra Glide as well.
Yeah. All the
What's the
names are so confusing, aren't they? There's so many
yeah,
glides, and it's the same with all
yeah.
brands. So you're like, I can't keep up with like the Nike stuff.
Oh no. How
Yeah,
did
so
they
it's
differ those two?
right. So the Aeroglide, I'd given the Aeroglide 2 early on, and I was like, I just found them all like really clumpy, heavy. I don't like um I don't like shoes with like thick padding all around the heel counter. And a lot of
Yeah,
them are like that, which are quite old school, as opposed to like one thing I love about some of the Nike shoes, you know, like the racing shoes, they're very thin around the top. I like shoes to be really light, really pared down, but then still have that cushiony feel. I just want really basic shoes, and I can't stand why they've not made any trail shoes. That's where trail shoes are so far behind. We just need a road shoe with some grip on the bottom to stop
yeah.
pissing about with all of this stuff on it. We don't need it. Some people will, but you just need something. Yeah, anyway. You don't need ridiculous stack heights. You just need a racing shoe with a grip.
Isn't that
Um,
what Tom Evans did with the Asics shoes?
yeah.
Yeah,
So I have to say I have got the Meta Fuji Speed. Yeah, Meta Fuji Speed. Again, the names are ridiculous. Meta Fuji Speed, which I think is a great shoe as well. I
yeah,
wore that for Wendover, I think, Wendover Woods. That's a great shoe. Stack height's a bit high. But yeah, so then they sent, I'd seen that the Aeroglide 3 had come out, and I was like, oh, it'll probably be the same. And then I just had a little deep dive looking at, I like to look at specifications, so I always look at weight. Now, the big thing for this is it looked a completely different shoe. It was more of like a foam based up
Midsole.
midsole. Yeah, should know all this terminology by now. And the weight was 206 grams.
Right.
So I was
Wow.
like, oh, boom. So I was like, can you send me them? And they sent me to them and I put them on and I was like, okay, yeah. And they're lighter than Super Blast. So I've been
Wow.
wearing Super Blast, but I'll be honest, I was starting to feel with Super Blast. I'd always thought they felt quite big on my foot because I'm not a big person and my feet weren't massive. Well, I'm like size 7 shoes,
Right.
trainers, but I always felt they felt a little bit clowny. And also, I was finding, I think this is always the same with a lot of these shoes. The first shoe, the first edition, I always love. And then because I feel like they last forever. And I was finding the Super Blast was starting to get deader earlier.
Right.
So when these arrived, firstly they were lighter. They're much more smaller, compact shoes. So they feel like when I put them on, they feel like more like a racing shoe, but they're not. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and I was just sold straight away. So I've just been wearing them the whole time. And then their Phantasma, which is another nice shoe. It's a little bit more old school, which I do quite like the old school shoes. I quite like the shoes which are more, again, pared down. So not a massive, they're not really high. They're more like more DAP like, but have a very thin foam with a plate. So the Phantasma, and I have to say the other thing about the Solomon shoes, they are beautiful looking.
They are.
I love the red and white S Lab. So they've been a great shoe. And then the trail shoe, I'll be honest, I'm not so sure because I haven't tried all the trail shoes, but I got the Ultra Glide 3
S-Lab.
S Lab.
I
Yeah.
think it was
I've
S-Lab Ultra Glide. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah. So I wore those for a lot of the trail section, and they're really comfy. And the other thing is they're massively durable. Like they literally haven't worn or done anything since TSP, and I'd worn them for quite a lot beforehand. I would just say they still feel a bit heavy
Right.
comparatively to. But then I'll be honest, I don't. So the shoe that I would wear if I mean I'm not tied to a brand, so I can do whatever I want, but the shoe that I would wear, so for instance, I've got a 50k coming up, I'll wear the Fuji Speed because I love that shoe. But the only problem with that shoe is I can't wear it for any further than that because my feet are just so uncomfortable after that sort of distance. To be
Right.
honest, really a marathon max. And then anything over that, you're looking at much more clumpier shoes, I think.
Yeah, I
Do
was
you know what I
sort of
mean?
asking, yeah, quite selfishly because I've got Race to the Stones 100k. So I've been looking at the Ultra Glide, thinking like, oh, is this what I need for that race? I can't quite figure out
Yeah.
which direction to go.
I mean, the best person to ask for that is probably Pete. He's obsessed
Right.
with shoes. So he's got the Hoka Tecton
Right. Yeah.
X.
X2
he
maybe.
thinks yeah, he thinks they're amazing.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't tried those yet actually. I didn't know whether carbon plates and trail shoes was a bit of a like false flag.
Well, I've got a plate in the Meta Fuji Speed. Yeah, I mean that's the other shoe you could do because that shoe was marketed, I think, as a shorter distance shoe, but I wore them for a 50 miler and they felt great.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Right.
I'd always worn for the hundreds Trabuco Max.
Yeah, I've yeah, a lot of people like those.
I do like them.
Uh, well, I'm sure I'll find one. I will ask Pete actually, yeah, and see if there's any advice I can get
Yeah, ask
because
him.
all my shoes are running out. So I'm just kind of,
Yeah,
well, I say running out. The other people would just tell me that I need to get them repaired, but I can't do that. I like new shoes.
I get it.
Yeah. I remember at one point on one of the other podcasts there was mention of a speed project. Well, there already is one in Europe, and you sort of like half talked about whether there could be one in the UK. But
Yeah.
I don't know where it could even possibly go.
Well,
But I
I've
think
actually Googled already Edinburgh to London and it's I think it's 400 kilometers or 400 miles or something like that.
yeah,
It's
I wonder
something
what
like
the
that. I
route.
think it's 400 kilometers, but it's not very interesting, is it?
No, there'd be a lot of road. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of things. I mean, the whole point though of TSB is finding your route. You couldn't do the obvious one is you do the Southwest Coast Path, but then everyone was on the same route. There's
yeah,
no shortcuts.
No, there isn't. Maybe it just doesn't work for the UK. Maybe Ireland would be nicer,
Yeah, you could do. Yeah, that's actually
like
quite a good
Sophie
idea.
Powers route.
Yeah.
Maybe. Suggest it to them, I'll take the royalties.
Royalties.
Yeah,
I don't think there is
royalties from
any.
an unsanctioned,
I was about to say, I think
not
you'd
out
be,
company race.
yeah, I think you just get the lawsuits when people get run over.
I mean, right, maybe don't mention it. When you were coaching, so you coach yourself basically, but you had, I know you've mentioned in the past that you used to have a super awesome, amazing running like mentor, I suppose.
Yeah, I
What,
still have him.
or do
Yeah.
you?
Mm.
Does he actually set your training for you, or does he glance over it, or
Oh God. Yeah. So yeah, I'm very lucky to be, I've been coached. I've used that very lightly, by the legend that is, and again, probably some people have never heard of him, Alan Story, but you can Google him and you'll find lots of interesting data on articles, probably some unsavory ones as well. So Alan was the race director of London Marathon for a very long time, actually, before Dave Bedford. He also coached Mo Farah, Sonia O'Sullivan, Paula Radcliffe. He coaches Lily Partridge, Chris Thompson, people like that. Scott
not a
Overall. I
bad
mean,
list?
it's endless. Hugh Jones, legends, people in Olympians. Um, and he's quite well known as being a bit of a grumpy old dinosaur, which he is. And yeah, so Alan's been helping me since 2013, so a long time now. And he's just also a very good friend of mine. I've known him for a long time, and it sort of started out as helping me for doing comrades because his background as well was he was very, I don't know if he was director, but he was behind London to Brighton, the ultra, the one of the ultras in the UK, which I think has started again, but it was one of the big ones and it was sort of
Yeah.
legendary. So he was interested in that, and so he helped me with comrades, and that went really well, and then we sort of stayed together ever since. Um, so Alan, I don't have like a training plan. We we talk every week. I tell him obviously what race I'm doing. He normally rolls his eyes and says, "Oh my God, really?" But then he knows now. And then he tries to tell me maybe you could do this 10K at the weekend. I'm like, no.
Oh,
Yeah, we have a lot of he's it's very much like, well, why don't you do this? No, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna run from LA to LV. So he sort of sets me, I'll say like, what do you think I should do this week? I'm thinking this is what I need to be doing. This is the race I'm doing. This is sort of like, so the next race I've got coming up, which is a 50K, is reasonably fast. And so I'm looking at it as almost like a marathon type thing. I need to be in that sort of shape. So therefore we will work around that. So he'll say, how about this session? What do you think about this? And maybe work to this pulse. So it's very loose. And then and I'll either come back and say, yep, I'll do that, or no, I think I should do this, or maybe we should do that. So it's very organic. He doesn't set me any of my training around that. I fill it in the blanks. Pete does, I do my strength work with Pete. So yeah, so it's very loose. I mean, I don't have a training plan like I do with my guys,
yeah.
you know.
Okay, but yeah, that's interesting. So you look at it sort of at the beginning of the week, and that I think that's generally your approach with your own athletes, isn't it? Sort of measure things
Yeah, I'm
just week
very
by week.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
very much, I don't think it works. I mean, he has an idea. Like we know that in, let's say, say when I was working towards, let's say comrades, and we knew it was 16 weeks away, then he knows some of the key things that we need to be doing, but I don't have a plan sent to me with it all. But because it's very organic and it changes, because it might be like, actually, that you've done too much this week. Let's pull it back, or we need to do a bit more of this week in this week, or there's a race. Let's do that. So it is like that, and every week's different. Like, so I literally have no idea. Like, so if I had a session, actually this week he emailed me at the beginning of the week with ideas of what we should do. But quite often I'll get to Monday night and I'll message him and go, well, what do you think I should do tomorrow? And he'll go, oh, I'll email you later. And he emails me at like 1 a.m. And so I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh, fuck, I've got to do this. I better get out now. So it's very much like that. Whereas with the guys that I coach, I do their plan, but it's weekly because every week is different. Because I don't think it works. If I say, here are all your sessions for the next month, it doesn't work that way because these people aren't full-time athletes. They've got jobs, they've got families, they've got children who get sick all the time and things
yeah,
pop up. So we do it weekly, but we do know that they've got the spine in 5 weeks time, 6 weeks time, so there is a plan set out. And for those, I will say, look, these are your weekends. I think you need to get out, and this is where you're going to do a back-to-back, or you're going to do a race simulation this weekend, so let's plan for that. But the rest of the time, they won't know what they're doing until the week before.
Yeah, I always look at my own training plan, and I wish that it was further into the future, but I recognize, as you say, there's not much merit to that. And other than knowing, like, maybe I just want to know how long the long runs are, because I like when they get longer. But
Yeah.
I want to look at my training plan and just say, oh, it's going to be 3.5 hours, then 4 hours.
Yeah. I mean, I will do that for people, definitely for people with, sort of big target races like that. Then I will go forward and put those in, but I will also put things like 12 to 16 miles. So it's very loose.
Right.
So
Okay.
so they get an idea. But I think that for a lot of athletes and for myself, I used to have my training with my first coach, husband, that
Yeah.
it would be very set in stone. And because of the sort of person that I was, and quite often it is for the same for most athletes who are wanting to be high achievers, that sort of thing, if it's written down, it's like I've got to do it, even
Yeah.
though it doesn't fit. So for me, that's why I don't like to do it all the time. I don't like to say, right, this is what you're going to do, because it depends on the sort of athlete that you are. And I can sort of recognize that after working with people for a few months, I can see what sort of athlete they are. I mean, when I take people on, I do have quite a long list of questions I ask them, and it is things like, how do you feel if you have to take a week off?
Ooh.
Yeah, exactly. You see, some people are like, oh my God. And then other people are like, yeah, no, I'm fine. Or, what happens how do you feel when you have a taper? It's all those sort of questions. You'll get to know straight away what sort of athlete you're dealing with.
Yeah. A week off? No, I wouldn't like that. I
So
could
that, I mean,
probably.
like, exactly, like, what does that say about? So, I mean, actually saying that, I should ask some of the questions to you, couldn't I?
You can
Of
do it.
what sort of things. So this is the things I ask you. I ask them things like, yeah, how many easy days do you have before your hard workouts? What do you find difficult in your training? Like, what is the thing that you don't like? Would it be a long run? Is it a threshold workout? Is it speed work, like really short stuff? Is it hills? Is it long intervals? Like, if you were set something like that, what of those things do you go, oh no?
To be honest, I find the easy runs the boring part. Like, I look forward to most of the sessions.
So
Like,
that's
I
good. That gives me an idea of what sort of athlete you are already.
Yeah, the sessions are the part where I can push myself and make the improvements. So
Yeah.
I look forward to those and seeing, like, well, I'm looking back to if I've done anything similar to see whether I'm performing any better or not. Whereas the easy runs are kind of just like plodding around. It feels like they're not as useful, but I know that they are.
So it makes me sound that you probably like to do more harder workouts than easy runs.
Yeah,
Yeah. So have you ever got overtrained and worn out? So I'm doing an interview now. I'm interviewing you.
there you are. It's turned around. I've definitely, yes, I have. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, because
I'm not surprised. Yeah.
yeah,
So
and
those
I
are sort of
picked up an
questions I'll
Achilles issue
ask,
because of it. Yeah,
you know.
yeah, it's good. Yeah,
Um,
it's good questions. Yeah,
like what's your purpose for training? Why are you doing this?
I just want to see how far I can go. It's all about distance for me at the moment. I'm very much on the train of do this distance, then 100K, and now I'm looking at 100 miles, and I just want to see
So it's about
how
testing yourself.
testing myself. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, you've passed. Well done.
Okay, good. No, it's because I want to be better than my brother.
Well, some people come out with things like they want to do it for weight loss, or they're doing it because they feel that they have to, or it makes them feel better, or or it's a mental thing, or it's like, or it's all about the process rather than the actual racing. Or some people saying it's because they like to race, but they're not really interested about training. So you can get quite an idea of what people are like, and it's like, are they um do they like doing team stuff, do they like doing stuff with other people, or do they like doing stuff on their own? um are Is there a fear of failure? It's things like that, reward vs process, internal vs external, approach vs avoidance, stuff like that. It's just interesting to find out, and you'll get an idea. Normally from that, the type of athlete, like what sort of stuff they do. Like if you're an ultra runner potentially, and you like being on your own and doing, you already know, as opposed to people who love being in a club scenario. and
Yeah.
like doing park run and stuff. They're going to probably be different athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to ask you about marathon talk as well.
Oh God. And then
I only wanted to know, like, how did it start?
what, as in for me?
Yeah, for you, did you? I don't know did Martin start it first and you
Oh
joined
yeah,
it later?
Martin and Tom had been doing it quite a few years before
Right,
me. And then, oh, yeah, it's actually a good question. I mean, I came on as a guest a few times.
right.
God, it's so long ago.
Because it was the first time
Um,
I ever read it. That was the first place I'd ever heard of you.
really, I know. That's the thing, isn't it? Like, so a lot of people don't even know. People just know me as doing ultras and stuff. They don't know about what I did before. So I was
Yeah,
on it, I guess. I got invited on it. I guess it was either after or before the European Champs. I think we all did. And then because obviously Martin's wife was a GB marathon runner as well,
yeah.
and and his sister.
Right.
And then she was amazing, Hayley, 10,000, 5,000 meter runner. And then yeah, I think they wanting to. I don't even know. They had some guest podcasters. So Steve Way, anyone who doesn't know Steve Way, look him up. Who's a good mate of mine. So Steve was on it a bit. I was on it. And then I think they just asked if I wanted to come. They wanted another host, and maybe they wanted a female. I don't really know. And I ended up saying yes. So and then Tom left because he'd had enough, and then we sort of went down to doing it every 2 weeks. Because I'll be honest, it was a lot of work.
Yeah. Well,
It's not
just
like how
researching what to.
podcasts. Oh
Right.
yeah, it's not like how podcasts are now. We were very PC, very professional. We had show notes. We had to do interviews every week. That was the hardest thing, doing interviews.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had show notes, and we had a sort of strict, we set a certain, it was done in a certain way.
But you set the parameters, didn't you? So why was it so strict and why was it
Well,
so
I didn't. It was
please?
more Martin. Martin was
Right.
like proper, everything had to be done a certain way.
Right.
And I'd be like, oh, I would do stuff that Martin wouldn't mind me saying. I would say stuff and he'd be like, guys, edit that out, please. You can't say that, Holly. And I'd be like, oh, God's sake, because I was probably very, very well PC. And also, I know that Tom was getting more and more disillusioned by not Martin or us, just the whole running. I think we were all getting disillusioned by the whole running scene because, we were there to report about, not only grassroots stuff, but also the top end.
Yeah.
And like I said, we would start off the call between us talking about recent results. I mean, and it's another level now. This
Yeah.
was when it was, people were running 2:05. And
Yeah.
we'd be like, well, clearly they're
Mm.
not clean. And we'd just be like, oh, that's ridiculous. And we'd just be slagging it all off. And then we'd go, hi, welcome to Marathon Talk. And what an unbelievable performance we've seen at the weekend, And it was just like, we just became a bit like, it was just saying the
Yeah.
same things, like people doing ridiculous times and and then the
It's
shoes
worse
came
now.
in. Yeah, the
Yeah.
shoes came in, and we just felt like it wasn't the same. I mean, if you listen to Science of Sport podcast with Ross Tucker, he's a little bit like, I'm not interested in watching marathon stuff anymore because it's just like, okay, someone else has broken the record, someone else has broken. When we were doing it, people broke the record every like 10 years,
Mm.
and it was amazing. And then now it's like, oh, here you go, another one.
It's a couple months, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, but we did have good fun. And the best thing is we had our marathon talk camps and they were brilliant. And we got to we had an amazing following
Mm.
for marathon talk people. And those were brilliant. And everyone was really kind. And yeah, it was brilliant. And on all the things that we did, like God, I can't even remember some of the what were they, like mile race, virtual stuff that we did was huge, and it made a really big community, and that for it was great. And I met some lovely people that are still my friends.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I remember listening to a football podcast once where when you say like, "Oh, Holly, we have to edit that out. You can't say that." And one of them said something. One of the three guys doing it said something that you couldn't say. And they said, "Oh, wait, hang on, stop. We're just gonna have to. We'll start that again. I'll ask you the question. You start laughing and stuff." And they left it all in the
Oh,
podcast by accident.
brilliant,
So
brilliant.
I was kind of just sat in the car by myself, going, "What is going on here?"
Oh, well, thank God they didn't do anything really bad and on PC.
Yeah.
But I mean, with the best bits with the end of the year where we would do, and of course we had Tony Audenshaw, who was bloody hilarious
Oh yeah, he
from
was brilliant.
Emmerdale.
Well, it's
And
near
oh,
you.
yeah,
Yeah.
I loved him. And we did at the end of the year we would do the bloopers, because obviously everything was recorded and they'd keep at the end, because we had editors, the guys, the editing team, who were just a bunch of Marathon Talk listeners who decided to help us, and they became sort of part of the family. And they would keep all the bloopers, and they were the best bits at the end of the year. I mean, they made me cry with laughter. Actually, it makes me want to go back and listen to them. Like some of the things with, because obviously the boys had their children during this whole thing, you know, like now they're, I don't know, teenagers, older, and you know, them coming in going, oh, daddy, I need a poo. And you know, I had quite a lot of Pete in the background, with opening we used to call it the poo loo door, because it made a ring when you open the door, and you could hear him like farting in the toilet. And then there was things like dogs barking. There was one where they were trying to record, and they were in a hotel room, and there was like a sound of a crane, and it just kept on going, like hammering every time they'd start, and just loads of stuff. And we'd say stuff, and we would just cry with laughter because we couldn't stop ourselves crying. And then we go like, right, start again, start again. You know, like the brilliant
Oh
outtakes.
yeah, those are the best. Yeah.
Just so good.
Oh, well, I won't keep you any longer because we try and sort of keep it around an hour-ish anyway
Sorry, I've just talked the high notes of
for
a
the
donkey.
podcast. Well, thank you so much, and well done, of course, for the performance. And I can't wait to see what you do next, sort of like long distance. If you're gonna dip your toe in again, I guess we'll have
Wow.
to wait and see.
Yeah, watch this space. Watch this space.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stop recording. Stop. There we go.